And we do have the STS-93 flight crew members. Katie Coleman making her second trip aboard the shuttle today. She will be prime on deploying the Chandra X-ray Observatory. That's scheduled for 7 hours after launch today. Mission Specialist 2, Stephen Hawley, making his 5th flight today after 21 years as a NASA astronaut. Commander Eileen Collins has served as pilot of 2 previous shuttle missions, making her 3rd flight aboard the Space Shuttle today. Mission Specialist and French Space Agency astronaut Michel Tonini. And shuttle rookie pilot Jeff Ashby. He's making his 1st flight aboard the shuttle today, assisting Commander Collins in control of the shuttle during the flight. This is the 3rd time the crew has sat at this table getting ready for launch for STS-93. All countdown activities going on schedule to support our 3rd attempt to launch the shuttle Columbia. Sun is setting out near the launch pad. We get a beautiful sunset view. Says Shuttle Launch Control. We do have the flight crew in the suit-up room at the Operations and Checkout Building. Commander Eileen Collins getting suited up for the 3rd time. She just completed her weather briefing. This will be her 3rd flight. She's been an astronaut for 8 years. It's her 1st flight as commander. She served as pilot for 2 previous Space Shuttle missions. And pilot Jeff Ashby making his 1st flight aboard the Space Shuttle today. He's a seasoned Navy jet pilot from Dallas, Texas, and he will lead any in-flight maintenance work that might be required during the flight and would serve as the overall coordinator for any spacewalk. Currently there are no planned spacewalks for this flight. And we have French Space Agency astronaut Michel Tonini. His 1st flight aboard the shuttle will occur today, although he has made a 2-week flight aboard the Russian Mir space station about 7 years ago. He's also in the French Air Force and has experience as a jet pilot. Mission Specialist Katie Coleman across the room. She's Mission Specialist 1, making her 2nd flight today. She, of course, has the primary responsibility for deploying the Chandra X-ray telescope. She was born in Charleston, South Carolina. She was a mission specialist on STS-73 in 1995. And mission specialist Steve Hawley. He's designated as the flight engineer for STS-93. He will be assisting Coleman and Tonini during the deployment of the Chandra and will be the primary operator of the small ultraviolet telescope from inside the crew module. Again, he's making his 5th flight on the shuttle today. Eileen Collins preparing for launch. She's happy to be able to try for the 3rd time to launch the shuttle Columbia. She's just finished weather briefing with a favorable weather forecast. Both she and pilot Ashby were in the weather briefing with flight directors in Houston. And again, weather conditions look favorable for liftoff on time at 12:24 a.m. Eastern Time. This is Shuttle Launch Control. We do have the STS-93 astronauts departing the crew quarters. So coming down the hallway. Crew has been here since last Friday. They've been here for almost a full week getting ready for the STS-93 launch. They've remained here at Kennedy. They've been on the same sleep-wake cycle that they will be on during the STS-93 mission. Going to bed around 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and then waking up around same time every evening around 7:30 p.m. Got the Astrovan ready and waiting, and the security escort ready to take the crew out to the launch pad for the 3rd time. Got groups of employees ready to wish the crew well as they get ready to embark on their 5th flight. flight crew now aboard the Astro van, and members of the news media there taking pictures. And the security escort is ready to lead the Astro van out toward launch pad 39B. Crew quarters is located in the industrial area at the Kennedy Space Center. Commander Eileen Collins getting ready for strap-in for the third time this week. And Commander Eileen Collins, first female shuttle commander, getting ready to take her seat inside the crew module. Astronaut support personnel Rick Lenahan now assisting shuttle commander Eileen Collins, getting into her seat there. Navy pilot Jeff Ashby getting ready to board the shuttle Columbia. He's making his first trip as the shuttle pilot today. During his career as a Navy pilot, Ashby earned many honors, including a Distinguished Flying Cross and a designation as the Navy Attack Aviator of the Year in 1991. His assignments included flights during 3 operations in Iraq and 1 in Somalia. He was selected to be in the astronaut program in December of 1994. Mission Specialist Katie Coleman is a lieutenant colonel in the United States Air Force. She's making her second space flight today. She received a doctorate in polymer science and engineering and used that knowledge as a research chemist for the Air Force. She was a volunteer test subject in the Air Force's centrifuge program and set several endurance and tolerance records. She joined the astronaut program in '92. And aboard the Columbia's flight deck, we have Jeff Ashby, the pilot, getting into his seat. Also now 3 flight crew members aboard the shuttle Columbia. Mission Specialist Katie Coleman down on the middeck of Columbia with Commander Collins and pilot Ashby on the flight deck. And we have Mission Specialist 2, Steve Hawley, with his traditional bag on the 3rd launch attempt, hoping that he's not the one causing the delays. He's hoping the shuttle won't recognize him. So tradition with Steve Hawley, who has been aboard several shuttle flights. This is his 5th flight, and this is not the first time he's seen shuttle delays. And Steve Hawley brings the experience of 4 previous flights and more than 651 hours in space to his duties as a mission specialist aboard STS-93. He has been part of the astronaut program since 1978. He's played vital roles as a shuttle simulator pilot for software checkout before STS-1 and as a member of the astronaut support crew for the next 3 missions. He holds a doctorate in astronomy and astrophysics. French Space Agency astronaut, mission specialist Michel Tonini, a colonel in the French Air Force, is making his 2nd space flight and 1st shuttle flight. Tonini will be riding aboard the flight deck along with Commander Collins, pilot Ashby, and Steve Hawley. And mission specialist Michel Tonini now taking his place aboard the flight deck of Columbia, seated right behind pilot Jeff Ashby. See the panels illuminated on the flight deck of Columbia. Mission Specialist 2, Steve Hawley, now aboard the flight deck of Columbia. All 5 crew members now inside the crew module of Columbia, getting ready for launch today. Countdown clock is at T-minus 1 hour, 56 minutes and counting. Our launch window opens at 12:24 a.m. Eastern Time today, extending until 2:20 a.m. T-minus 20 seconds. T-minus 15, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. We have a go for engine start. 0. We have booster ignition and liftoff of Columbia, reaching new heights for women in X-ray astronomy.
Booster now controlling.
Houston, Columbia is in the roll. We've got a fuel cell pH number 1.
Roger, roll, Columbia, we're looking at. Columbia, Houston, we'd like AC bus sensors off. We're evaluating the fuel cell. Columbia.
That's complete, Scooter.
Roger that, Columbia. Looks like we had a transient on AC1.
Columbia is now headed downrange, altitude 3.8 miles. And as we hear, all systems okay. It looks like a sensor on board. 3 engines throttling down, all at 67%.
Columbia, Houston, we are critical to AC2 on the center engine, AC3 on the right. We've lost DCU-A on the center and DCU-B on the right.
Copy that.
And Columbia, Houston, you are go at throttle up.
Columbia, go at throttle up.
And all 3 engines are back at full throttle. Columbia is now 8 miles downrange, altitude 14 miles. The flight control team is monitoring the electrical systems on board. Again, all 3 fuel cells appear to be healthy, as do the hydraulic systems. We're approaching 1 minute 50 seconds into the flight, standing by for burnout and separation of the solid rocket boosters on the orbiter. Columbia now has burned more than 2 million pounds of fuel and weighs half of what it did at launch. SRB separation is confirmed.
Columbia, Houston, performance nominal. Columbia, Houston, we have a good downlink and a great view of Chandra.
Center lines are coming open.
Roger that, Columbia.
And this view looking from inside Columbia's payload bay, the Chandra X-ray Observatory, the 45.3-foot-long Chandra mounted atop its inertial upper stage, which is out of view behind the telescope. This full complement stretching almost the entire length of Columbia's payload bay.
And Houston, what you see there in the on the back window on the left side is Michelle. Katie's on the right, and that's myself in the front. We're going through some of the procedures just prior to the deploy. The cue cards that Katie has in front of her are her deploy cue cards. They're go-no-go cue cards. They're And Houston, what you're seeing is the actual moment of deploy there when we take the switch to deploy, and it's so quiet. We were just amazed, but you look out and this thing is so big, you certainly know that it's moving towards you and over the head of the shuttle. You're getting a little bit better view of Chandra out in front of the IUS there. And I know that a lot of people have seen Chandra as it's been constructed and seen it as it's being installed in the shuttle, but I will tell you there is nothing as beautiful as Chandra sailing off on its way to work. Beamer, I'm finished up here with PGIM, and I thought I'd just show you the results before I go put everything away. The plants that we've had on board here, we're going to test them two different ways. One is the big long tubes that you see here, and there's plants that are just completely whole, and they're suspended in a fluid that'll preserve them. And we're going to take them home that way and let the investigators see what they see. And then the ones in these little tiny tubes here have been separated by the plant, by the leaf part and by the roof part, and they're going to get frozen to preserve them. And this is just really a pretty neat little experiment where they've actually designed a gene into these plants that can tell the experimenters how the plants are doing. I mean, it can't actually jump up and say, you know, we need water, we'd like a drink of water, but this gene will actually show that when they test them when we get home, will actually show the investigators whether the plants have felt stressed by coming to space or not.
This view of the commercial generic bioprocessing apparatus, or CGBA payload. This particular experiment is investigating the predator-prey relationship between ladybugs, aphids, and painted lady butterflies in space. And it's hoping that information gathered from this experiment could help farmers to use the natural pest control method to protect their crops and avoid having to use chemical pesticides that might endanger the environment.
Throughout the day, mission specialist Steve Hawley made observations of a variety of bodies in the solar system, such as this image of the moon, using the Southwest Ultraviolet Imaging System, which explores the atmospheres and surfaces of those bodies in the ultraviolet range of the spectrum of light. With Collins and Ashby maneuvering the shuttle to aim the side hatch window, Hawley also took images of Venus and Jupiter and searched for evidence of a theoretical band of asteroids inside the orbit of Mercury, known as volcanoids.
Commander Eileen Collins now at the helm of Columbia and control as it approaches the runway. Speed 540 miles per hour. Altitude 40,000 feet. This is a view of the Kennedy Space Center below and the surrounding area. Altitude 22,000 feet. 100 degrees to go in this turn to align with runway 33.
Columbia, Houston, you are on at the 90.
Columbia, on at the 90.
That call from Capcom Scott Altman that Columbia is right on target with 90 degrees to go in this turn to align with the runway. Altitude 16,000 feet, speed 420 miles per hour. Again, this is a view from the heads-up display, a display in front of the pilot on board.
Houston, Columbia has the runway in sight.
Roger, runway in sight, Columbia.
As Columbia moves in sight of the runway. Now aligning with the center of runway 33. Altitude 8,000 feet. Speed 390 miles per hour. Altitude 5,000 feet. $4,000 feet. $2,000 feet. Altitude now 1,000 feet. Commander Eileen Collins guiding Columbia onto the shuttle landing facility runway. Landing gears down and locked. Touchdown, main gear touchdown for Columbia. Drag chute deploy. Columbia home, completing a mission that made history and opened a new eye on the universe.
Houston, Columbia, wheel stop.
Roger, wheel stop, Columbia. Welcome home. Eileen, to you and the crew, just an outstanding job deploying Chandra and bringing Columbia home for a beautiful landing. There are no deltas. We'll meet you in the post-landing.
Copy, no post-landing deltas. And we'll go to the entry checklist.
And here at Kennedy Space Center, we have Commander Eileen Collins greeting the members of the management team here, Bill Reedy from NASA headquarters. The crew now disembarking from the crew transport vehicle after a successful flight here, landing at Kennedy Space Center at 11:20 p.m. Eastern Time. Crew now talking to various members of the management team from the Kennedy Space Center, NASA headquarters, and also Marshall Space Flight Center. Pilot Jeff Ashby now talking to Bill Reedy. Mission Specialist Katie Coleman talking to Center Director Roy Bridges. Ground activity has been going according to schedule this evening with preparing the Shuttle Columbia for ground activity. Ground cooling has been established to the orbiter Columbia, and the drag chute has been recovered. The auxiliary power units have been shut down, and Houston flight has officially handed over to the Kennedy Space Center ground team. That occurred about 10 minutes ago. Mission Specialist Steve Hawley. Also got NASA Administrator Dan Golden talking to Mission Specialist Michelle Tonini from the French Space Agency.
Do you know what, Stevenson? He's the director of NASA. Thank you. Thank you for Chandra. What is the difference between launch of the shuttle and launch of the new car? So you can see it from the ground. So when you go take a look.
Pilot Jeff Ashby having completed his first space shuttle flight.
They haven't seen nothing yet. I was on radio today and I didn't see my press release.
NASA Administrator Dan Golden and astronaut Jim Weatherby standing in support of the flight, along with astronaut Charlie Precourt. Commander Eileen Collins talking to Dave King, who's the Director of Shuttle Operations here at Kennedy Space Center. All 5 crew members for mission STS-93 looking very well following their successful 5-day flight aboard the Shuttle Columbia. Crew will be departing shortly aboard the crew transport vehicle and will be heading back to the crew quarters in the operations and checkout building in KSC's industrial area. Back at their quarters, the crew will be receiving a physical. They will also be meeting with their family members, be allowed to have a bite to eat, and are expected to have a press conference here at Kennedy Space Center at about 6 a.m. Eastern.
Well, good morning, everyone. This crew has just come back from a very successful 5-day flight. We deployed the Chandra X-ray Observatory, which was the main objective of the flight, and everything's gone very successful. We're very proud of that, and we're very proud of the team that put together the Chandra telescope and the Space Shuttle Columbia. Columbia performed just outstanding on orbit, and we have nothing but great things to say to all of you that have supported us here at Kennedy Space Center and at Johnson Space Center and around the NASA centers in the country. We'll be talking to the media a little bit later this morning in a press conference. We welcome you to come. We welcome you to watch that. And just thanks again for your support. We just can't say enough. Good night.